Welcome back to The Retirement Engineer and our discussion of education and the one big beautiful bill. In part one, your host Jim Kruzan reviewed several points in the bill that covered topics including Pell Grants, changes to student loans, school choice credits, and 529 plans. I'm Patrice Sikora. Jim, talk about something that's completely new in this mix now. It's the Trump savings account. Talk about that.
Yeah, this is brand new, and I have to say that the jury, I think, is still out as to its application and whether it is better than or more beneficial than maybe some of the other savings opportunities that are out there. But anyway, what it is, if you think about it, it's essentially the government has established a tax-deferred investment account for children. Now, there is a benefit, at least for the next several years. It's an automatic enrollment. So these accounts are automatically established for any newborn, born 2025 through 2028. You have to have a social security number, but once you have a social security number, it's automatically established. And through the kindness of our president, every new account established will have immediately a deposit of $1,000 tax-free into this account for the child. Accounts for other children whose parents might like to participate by establishing an account can do so starting next year, July 4th, 2026. Right now, the only way to participate for a child is you have to be born.
You have to get born, yeah.
Older children, we can't establish accounts just yet. The money has to be invested in a regulated stock fund. Think of that probably as something like the S&P 500, or if you are a government employee, one of the stock fund that's available through your investment savings program would probably be something that would look very, very close to it. So what are the mechanics of this thing? Well, once the account is established, by the way, you can also add to it. Parents can add up to $5,000 a year. So one-time $1,000 shot from the U.S. government. Thereafter, at your leisure, you can add up to $5,000 a year. Money, it's like a locked box. You can't touch it until the child turns 18.
Even the $5,000 the parents have put in?
Right.
Okay.
Upon the time that the child turns 18, the money is then, or I should say ownership, is released to them. They can do with as they want. The account at that point is treated very much like an IRA, meaning the IRA rules exist. It's tax deferred as long as you leave it in the account. If you pull money out, it's taxable at whatever rate the child would be in, and it's subject to a 10% penalty unless you're pulling it out for a qualified reason. Those reasons typically are education expense or first-time homeowner. And the first-time homeowner benefit is $10,000, which is in alignment with what it is for IRAs and those kinds of things now. It's a little fuzzy still as to whether at some point beyond that you convert this thing into an IRA. Do you leave it in the savings account? I was reading a review of this as recently as mid-September, and Congress hasn't really provided some clarity as to how that works. But the account, if you were to use it for something else, and you're not 59 and a half, you're subject to not only taxes, but also penalty on the amount that you pull out. Mm-hmm. I don't see a huge benefit here when you start comparing to other things. As an example, this money might be able to get rolled to an IRA. So it's still in a deferred account, still subject to tax down the road. If you're funding a 529, there's a sizable amount of money at the end that could be converted into a Roth IRA that might be a better tax-free account long-term in terms of the planning sense of things. If you have the money in a custodial account, the Uniform Trust to Minors or Uniform Gift to Minors account, a child at 18 can use it for whatever they want. So we don't have those restrictions. The child pays tax at their rate, but there's no penalty to deal with. So that might even prove to be a bit more flexible. The 529, if you don't use it, use it for education, it's a tax-free distribution. That's vastly superior to just simply avoiding a 10% penalty and pulling out money from the Trump account for education. If you use your 529 for something other than education, you want to buy a Volkswagen microbus and head to California. It's going to be taxable, but it's going to be taxable at your rate. But the tax is not on the amount you distribute. It's only on the distributable gain that you pull out of the account. So depending on how much you funded and what kind of risk tolerance you had when it was growing, you might find that half of it is original principal and only half of it is taxed. And there is a 10% penalty. But again, the penalty is only on the taxable amount. So when you look at the efficiency and the effectiveness in terms of flexibility, et cetera, the Trump account might not be the best thing going. The only advantage is at this time, for the next several years, every new birth has the opportunity for a free $1,000 deposit. So there's money on the table. So everybody should participate. The question is, if we had extra parental savings money, is it best to put it there or somewhere else? It is not as clear cut. I think the hope was to establish money in the name of all these young children who will have some assets that'll be in a stock fund. Maybe it becomes an educational device. Maybe it's some opportunity to have discussions with your child when they're old enough to understand the importance of savings, et cetera. Since it's for every child born, I can certainly understand why access to the money is somewhat restricted.
Right.
You certainly wouldn't want parents who might find that they're in financial tough times to invade that money, where it could be done if we had a 529 that was owned by a parent, or we had a custodial account that could be, liquidated and used for something that's supposed to be for the child's benefit, but it really is more for the parents' support. I like the idea. The more money that we have the ability to save, the better off everybody is. But it really becomes, look, we've got a certain size of the pie, and there are only so many pieces of the pie that we have for investment and reinvestment. And is this really the best plan going? It's tough to say.
A quick question. That $1,000 that's initially put into the account, is there a default stock fund that it's put in, or do you immediately have to choose where to put it?
It looks like it's going to be a default stock fund.
Okay. Because I would think at that point, many parents are just too busy. They just don't want to, deal with it at that point.
Yeah, it's going to be they made sure it was low cost. It's probably an index fund. They're probably leveraging off of a couple of the low cost index funds that the government is currently using for their payroll savings programs. Yeah. And I'm sure it's going to be something to that effect. Okay.
So what else are you seeing in this bill?
Yeah. There are a couple of other things. They made permanent the ability to convert money in a 529 into an ABLE account. We didn't talk much about ABLE accounts. We touched on it in episode 40. ABLE is ABLE, Achieving Better Life Experience. It's generally an account that can be established for someone who's disabled. You can have as much as $100,000 in an ABLE account, and it doesn't impact, read that as reduce, any federal funding that you would get. So if you're on Social Security disability, receiving food assistance and those kinds of things, I think the rule is you can't really have any more than $2,000 in your name. With the ABLE account, you can have as much as 100,000. Distributions would be qualified distributions. There's a set of things you can spend this money on or not spend. So that was made permanent, which I think is a really good thing. And they also made permanent the additional savings credits associated with that. So in addition, you can save additional monies in the ABLE account. So there are some strategies there. If you're a parent of a disabled child and had the wherewithal to establish an ABLE account, maybe what we look at doing is using other investments that can then kind of pour into the ABLE account, replenishing the ABLE account as we're taking distributions from the ABLE account to provide some of the support. So using it kind of as a wash through, qualifying without jeopardizing the child from losing any of those very important federal benefits. I thought that was really a very strong benefit, limited use. Beyond that, I guess it really comes down to, look, education planning is really serious. It requires a lot of planning. It can involve a lot of money. And sadly, simultaneously, we're trying to deal with this at the same time we're trying to figure out our own retirement. It's really cavalier to say, well, the more you save, the better off you are, because we all know that we all have a limited amount of savings available. It has an impact. If we're not mindful of this, for individuals, if you're putting your way through college yourself and you're doing student loans, that tends to come back to bite you. You will have a large payment. You'll have this additional debt. That may very well reduce your ability to save for 401k or in a 401k or in an employer-based program. That will certainly have an impact on the amount of money you have available for savings yourself. You will lose compounding. You may actually lose, worse yet, lose free money, lose employer match. On top of that, as we just found out, we now have, in many cases, a 30-year runway. There's a really good chance you're approaching retirement with this debt burden as well. I mean, imagine what that looks like. Somebody who needs $5,000 a month to live on in retirement. Well, yeah, but I got a $1,200 student loan payment still. So that's more like $6,200. It becomes vastly more complicated. If you're a parent and you're taking distributions, you can usually support 5 loans on a 401k. And I will tell you, I can remember many clients that were educating 2 or 3 children at the same time. They would constantly have 5 loans outstanding. And as one dropped off, they secured another one. And in some cases, in addition to the loans, they would do these hardship distributions, or they would take some after-tax money out of the program. If you're doing that, some of those withdrawals are taxable. And then you're dealing with taxes and you're dealing with penalties, in addition to lost employer matching. On top of that, it may very well impact your FAFSA score, because any taxable distribution from a 401k is reportable taxable income. So now the household is carrying more income than it had before. And as a result, you might be denying your child the ability to get some additional financial aid. So at the end of the day, the best thing to do, bar none, is prioritize retirement first. Figure out where you are, how you're tracking, what amount of additional savings do you need to put away on a regular basis to achieve your retirement goal. From there, if we have any additional discretionary income, Start funding as much as you can to the max you can, 529. After that, let's start evaluating and exploring other opportunities. Is that going to get us to where we need to get? Will there be a gap in finances? Do we fill that gap by making available any one of the loans, whether it's a student unsubsidized loan, a Parent Plus loan? Do we look for Pell Grants? Do we look for other opportunities? And then lastly, which should be firstly, is you need to be able to communicate to your children what those family expectations are.
That was my next question. When do you start talking to the kids?
As early as possible. Certainly, well before high school graduation, I would say, as they're entering college or as they're entering high school. I mean, 8th grade to freshmen, we're focused on, we've got 4 years, then we're off to college. And that communication should be, look, there's a gap. We expect you to work, or we're going to explore loans, or, we expect you to pursue a degree which can lead to a vocation and a career. And above and beyond everything else, we expect you to be in and out in 4 years.
Yeah.
It's not you're going there, you're sampling, you're trying different things, and then eventually you start getting serious. That's got to stop, because that is just a very expensive proposition otherwise.
Absolutely. All right, Jim.
It all comes down to planning.
Yeah. And again, we're talking about planning and talking to you, and how can people get to you? They want to start planning.
Well, best way, just reach out, kaydanwealth.com, or you can also just look at the show notes. All that contact information will be there as well.
All right. Well, folks, education funding has always been a balancing act, and the bill we've been talking about could shift the scales in any number of ways. If you missed episode 40, we encourage you to go back and listen to the full review of the One Big Beautiful Bill. Now, today we focused on education. Hopefully you got a lot out of that. And if you did, please follow and share this with somebody else who also might get something out of it. And if you found the episode helpful, please subscribe. We'd love to have you back again. Follow at Kaydan Wealth on social media and let us know what you think in the comments. Your feedback and topic suggestions help us improve and make a bigger impact. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you for listening to The Retirement Engineer with Jim Kruzan. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.kaydanwealth.com or give us a call at 800-638-6900. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of Jim Kruzan and this episode's guests, not necessarily those of Kaydan Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.